Hello, my name is Karen Slawinski. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I live in Akron, Ohio. So today I'm going to be sharing with you a really cool technique. It's something that I just learned. I've always loved watercoloring, and I recently took a watercolor stamp camp, and in this class, it was so much fun. We learned a technique using our Stampin' Write markers to watercolor. So that's what I'm going to be showing today. So I do like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, whether you're new or you're a current subscriber, and I encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this video with others. I'd also love to be your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and if you need any of the products that I'm showing today, I will have links in my description and also on my blog, thepowerofacard.blogspot.com. So let's get this camera turned around and we will begin. All right, this is the card that I made, and like I said, it is using some of my Stampin' Write markers to do the watercoloring. I think today we're going to make it in a different color just to show you some other options, and we are going to be featuring the Flowers of Friendship stamp set. The thing that you will need with this is the watercolor paper. You really can't do this technique unless you have something that is meant to absorb the watercolors. And so we do need to have a watercolor friendly paper. So I'm going to get those set aside. And so I have a piece of that. So I'll show you all the supplies we're going to need. Our base is a basic black. This is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of basic white for the inside. This is 4 by 5 1/4. This is a piece of the Regal's 6 by 6 Designer Series paper. As you can probably guess from previous videos, you'll see this pattern a lot. I just really love this one. So this is also 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have a little scrap of pumpkin pie. This is about 2 inches by 1 1/4, and we actually may even trim that down. So I have a scrap of watercolor paper, and then I have my piece that we're going to be stamping with. So the first thing I'm going to do is stamp this big flower. Now, one thing that's important to do is use the right kind of ink. So normally when I'm stamping, I'm using the Memento Black. This is Stazon Black, and this is a permanent ink. And so you want something that is not going to bleed with the water. So we're going to stamp this up, make sure we get good coverage, and we're going to stamp that right here in the middle of our watercolor paper. I'm going to let that just sit and absorb just a little bit before lifting it off, and there is my image. Okay, I'm going to set this aside, and then we need to test this. Now, we need also water painters. So they do come in 3 sizes. I am going to be using the smaller of the 2 brushes. This is a wide brush, as you can see here. But I am going to be using the smaller one. I also like to have a cloth handy, just so that I can wipe any drips on. And I do find it easy to have some water in a cup. I think it helps me control it rather than squeezing it from the tube that has water in it, but it just gives me a little bit more control. So then what I like to do is make sure these will blend nicely. So each of our Stampin' Write markers has a fine tip and a bold tip end. So I am just going to put a little bit of color, and I'm going to test it out and see how well this blends. Some I have found don't blend very nicely, but that gives me a pretty nice blend. So let's do the same thing with our Granny Apple Green. Making sure I have the right one. So I'll put some color there, and then just see how that blends out. So that blends very nicely. So I'm very happy with that. So set that aside. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add the color to our flower. And I like to do this in sections. I don't like to do too much at one time, but I'm just going to put some of my color, and I'm going to start out at the base of my flower where I have the darkest section. And then I am just going to blend this out. And it really kind of surprised me at how much these markers will blend. But they do. They blend beautifully. And you can get beautiful colors. And it's really easy. And it's not messy at all. So I was really thrilled when I learned this technique. So there, you can always go back and add more colors. But I think that looks very nice. So I'm going to go on to my next flower. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put some of the color down. And I'm going to just grab a little bit of water. I really like having that cup of water. Just gives me a little bit of wetness to my brush rather than squeezing it and maybe getting too much. I would hate to have it drip onto my project as I was working on it. And these Stampin' Write markers will come in sets. So you can get the Regals or you can get the Brights. You'll also be able to get a collection of just the in colors. So if you don't have them, I encourage you to get some of these. They are really a lot of fun. And this watercolor technique is so easy that it really doesn't take any skill to do the watercolor. So that's why I love it. And I'm just going to add some of my grainy apple green to my leaves. And as you can see, we are almost done with this coloring. It is beautiful. All right. 2 more leaves. Get some of my splatters off. And you could mix if you wanted different shades of green. You could put a little bit of a couple different markers on here and blend it as well. But I'm just going to stick with my basic pumpkin pie and grainy apple green. I don't know if I'd said that I had used pumpkin pie before. But there, we have our watercoloring all done. So I'm going to wet my brush off, set my cloth aside. Now we're going to let this dry. So we can go ahead and assemble the rest of our card. So we're going to start out with our base. Actually, I didn't even score this one. I'm just going to fold it in half and grab my tool. I love giving it a good crease. And then we are going to put this panel right on top. So I'll get my multi-purpose glue. It's a brand new bottle, so it likes to come out pretty fast. So there we have that. And then I might as well put my piece for the inside while we're waiting for our flower to dry. Turn that around. And then put this one right here. Okay. And then this little piece we are going to stamp. And I decided to stay right with that Stazon. It's a beautiful, deep and vivid black ink. But it is something that you do not want to leave open because it dries quickly. That looks beautiful. And then I am going to just trim this down to make it a little bit narrower. I'm going to bring in my little mini trimmer here. And you can just eyeball this. You don't have to measure it. But I'm just going to take just a little bit off. And now we'll be ready to assemble this card. So I've got my dimensionals. This one isn't a heavily wet card, but one thing you will, you may experience if you do a lot of watercoloring on this, they tend to warp a little bit. So you may need to use more dimensionals just to help keep it from warping too much and having gaps down the side. And we're just going to put this on so it's equal distant from these two corners. And then I'm going to add this here. So I'm only going to put a dimensional underneath that portion here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue just to anchor it there. And this will go right down here. And there you have, oh, that's a little, well, it does help if you take the backing off your dimensional, Good thing the glue gives you a few minutes to dry. So it hadn't really stuck yet. So there you have, isn't that cute? Now, cute little touch to finalize it is to have some of these matte black dots. I really like using these. They are wonderful accents. So I'm going to take a couple of them. I'm going to put that right down here in the bottom of our card. And I think just a couple of them. And you take your pick tool. Really make it very easy to pick those up. So what do you think? Here is the one that I did in Mango Melody. And here is the one in Pumpkin Pie. Which one do you like better? I don't know. I really love both of them. And I think the watercoloring is just so striking in this. I wanted to show you a couple other cards. Oh, I was also going to show you what I did on the inside. I just added a flower on the inside and then some of the flowers on my envelope just to finish it off. So some of the other cards that I have made using the watercolor technique, using our Stampin' Write markers. This was one of our celebration stamp sets, and this really cute otter, he was perfect to color with him. And just a cute little trick, when you want to do critters that have fuzz, you see how he's got little furry bits hanging off. So I stamped him on watercolor paper. I did all my marker coloring with him, and then I cut him out right at the edge. Then I stamped that same image onto my blue paper, so all the fuzzy bits would show, and then I glued him right on top. So that way he still has those fuzzy bits, and he's really, really cute. So that's this one. Here is another one. Oh, I love this stamp set. This stamp set is really meant for watercoloring, and it's so fun and easy to do with the markers. So I thought that was very sweet. Wouldn't it be nice to send that to one of my girlfriends? And here is a floral card. Oh, this was one of the first ones that I had tried when I had taken that class. I did this with the flowers, and it was so pretty. So I think this one was done with the Mango Melody and Poppy Parade, if I'm not mistaken. So there was the card that I made there. Oh, this is one of my newer sets. Look at that robot. Isn't he adorable? So he really looks cute when you watercolor him because he gets sort of this metallic, just kind of uneven look to him. So I really thought that one was cute. And here is another one where I have more flowers. And just, again, it's super simple to do this. And look, you can get the variation of colors, although it's just one of your markers. So it depends how much you add for water. So there was the inside of that card. So here are my cards. I'll keep all the envelopes with them. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I will have details of these cards on my blog, which is thepowerofacard.blogspot.com. And let me see, we got to get this in so you can see him. I can't see him too well. Maybe down here. Okay. I encourage you to take a look at that. I will have all the instructions on how to do this, and I want to see what you come up with. Until next time, thanks so much for watching.